Hey everybody, it's Mike Young, lifestyle nutritionist with aPlantBasedDiet.org. Welcome to chapter 75 of my book, Live to 150. So we're halfway done. Woo, halfway done. All right, this chapter is about ADHD and ADD, whether in children or adults, and the relationship to the glycemic index of your food. Now, I don't know if anybody's ever talked to you about this, and I know that if somebody has ADD or ADHD, it's a major problem. And I unfortunately, in my experience of people that I know and I've known many over the years that have this, they don't focus on the food. And of course, you know that this book is all about focusing on the root cause so that you can have a high quality life and, extra longevity, double your lifespan, and have a lot of fun at the same time. Now, if you can't pay attention to anything, you're not having any fun. Okay. There's no way that that's fun. And unfortunately, people aren't drawing the correlation between glycemic index and your attention span. The same can be said about your pancreas and cancers of the pancreas and things like that. It has to do with the load of that your food, the energy load that your food puts on your body. Now, to put it in layperson's terms, if you've got something that is a high glycemic index, it's basically a food that is probably not food as grown in nature, and it may be an animal product or some other thing. It's anything but the optimal. All right, and go back to chapter, was it 42, where we described the food. Okay, so what it's going to do is it's going to cause your blood sugar levels to just spike. It's going to give you a massive spike of energy, and that's not sustainable. So you're going to crash at some point as soon as that wears off. And that's the problem with attention deficit disorder. It's basically that same, you're out of balance type of thing. You're either so lethargic you can't pay attention to anything, or you're totally hyperactive and you can't pay attention to anything. Either way, you're not paying attention. So the way that you even things out, the idea is get on an even keel. It's also the same idea with longevity. Get on an even keel, because if you got all these crazy ups and downs throughout your life, at some point, one of those ups or downs is going to kill you. It's going to create you're maybe in some disease state, and that's all it takes to push you over the edge. We don't want you there. We want you in balance the whole time for as long as possible, and that allows you to have a high quality life. It also requires you to reject almost every food item that someone's going to offer you that you're going to be able to buy. Okay, now this is not an easy thing to do, but you need to recognize it. And if you're not sure how to find low glycemic foods, go back to chapter 42. But I'm going to give you a little bit of information here. Basically, it's anything that is less and less processed version. Like if you're talking about a white flour compared to a whole grain flour. Now, that whole grain flour is processed and probably more than it should be, but nothing compared to the white flour, which is even a totally ridiculously higher level of that. You're talking about sugar, that white sugar that's in almost everything. That is the most processed version you can. You can make something like a date paste. All these things have a much lower glycemic index. It's much more work for your body to digest that food, not to the point where it's impossible or very hard, like taxing. It's just the way it should be, versus super, super easy. Because if something's super easy, it's going to flow right through, it's going to spike you, and then you're going to crash. That's what's going to happen. Another example is pasta or rice. Same thing. Don't get the white versions of it. Get the whole grain, which is generally brown looking. Not to say that all these things should be eaten at all, okay? Because there's a lot of questions about flour and sugar and any kind of pasta or rice, depending upon who you talk to. And you know that we talk here all the time about eating at least half of your food for raw organic produce food as grown. So that's really if you're super sensitive to that, you want to go over and have all of your diet like a food as grown diet, because that's the form that is designed for your body, and that is not going to cause these blood sugar spikes, and is very low glycemic index. Now, some other examples that are not isolated ingredients involve basically anything processed. You pick any packaged items you pick up off the shelves of the grocery store, and like I've talked about, most of the food in the grocery stores you should not be eating ever, unless it's some extremely rare cheat meal or something. So those foods, those prepackaged multi-ingredients foods, are going to be very high glycemic index, almost all of them. I'd say that that is something that is ubiquitous, and basically a rule of thumb is that all of those foods are high glycemic index. And that's what a lot of kids are eating. We wonder why all these kids have ADD. It's no wonder to me. Their blood sugar levels are all over the place. And if you keep that up during your adult years, what you usually end up with is some form of pancreatic cancer. And that's been a major problem with adults, and is predicted to get even worse before it gets better. So same thing with our declining lifespan. The last couple of years, it's been going down. It was going up for so long. Now it's coming down. Why? It's because of our habits and our food choices. So it's a simple solution. You just got to look out for these high glycemic foods, avoid them, make the right choices. I don't care if someone's handing it to you. I know if you're younger. Now, anybody can watch this video, right? So if you are someone that's a dependent, in this day and age, you could be 30 years old and be dependent. I've seen this, okay? Or more likely you're in elementary school watching this video, or middle school or high school or college. Either way, you're probably, well, unless you're in college, let's say all the way through high school, in almost all cases, if you're someone of this age watching, thank you so much for watching. Please share the videos, like the videos. But you probably don't have all that much control over your food, especially if you don't have understanding parents or parent. And I would highly recommend, if they don't understand why you want to eat in a certain way and why it's so important to you, especially if you have attention deficit disorder, maybe you've been through and seen the counselors and the psychiatrists, and you've been prescribed the Adderall, the Ritalin, or whatever it is, and these things don't work. They work initially because it's different and you're able to suddenly focus. But then long-term, it's no fix. The fix long-term is what I'm telling you. It's the only hope, because these other physicians or pill pushers, whatever you want to call them, okay, they're not ever going to tell you that you can get over this. And if they do, write down below. I'd love to hear that. And we're not, by the way, we're not practicing medicine. We're just telling you what to eat. But I am very confident that what I am saying to you about what to eat applies to almost everyone, except unless you're allergic or you have an issue with lectins or other things in oxalates that can be found in foods. Don't eat those, okay? I'm not saying to eat those, but don't eat the crap, the trash, the garbage that most people are eating, and then they wonder why they have attention issues, drinking soda and all these other beverages. Water should be your beverage of choice. All those beverages have an extremely high glycemic index. That's the problem with those beverages. You're taking all the fiber and everything else out, if there's even anything real in there, okay? And it's just being absorbed straight in your bloodstream. Probably right when it's under your tongue, it's going straight into your bloodstream. And that's not good. It's not good at all. And like I said, maybe you're great and you've never had attention deficit disorders or any kind of symptoms or any kind of episodes, or you've done well in school, you've done well on tests. If you haven't, you probably have this, even if it's undiagnosed. And I guarantee you, if you are to change your lifestyle, you're going to notice a dramatic change here. You're just sensitive to this. That's all. Some people are less sensitive. Some people are more sensitive. Not everyone's the same in the way they react to the inputs. That I will say. Not everyone's the same. I mean, genetically, in terms of a map, we're mostly the same, but the way it plays out, every human is unique. Every factor is different for each individual. But as a rule of thumb, I'm telling you, this is so important, so important. So pass this along to anybody that's got ADD, ADHD. Please share it as a resource to them. Comment with your own, your thoughts on this, any of your experiences. Maybe you had ADD or ADHD and now you don't. What did you do? I want to hear from you. What did you do? Maybe you've got it and you can't solve it. And hopefully keep going to your doctors, by the way. I'm not telling you to stop seeing your doctor. Just try this with the diet if you have never tried it and you have these conditions. See what happens, but you have to be compliant. I cannot stress that enough. You can't just half-ass it. When I say half-ass it, I mean, if you're doing this diet 65% and then the other 45, you're doing something else, it's actually, that doesn't add up, does it? 35. It's still not going to work for you if you're hypersensitive to this. You've got to go all in. You've got to make that decision. And if you need help with goal setting, watch some of the earlier chapters. Need help with motivation as to the psychology of this, which is basically motivation, because you're not hearing it from the right people. The right people aren't telling you that this is what you should do. Go back and read some of the other chapters or listen to them, watch them in this book. So thanks so much. If you got value, please, of course, as always, like the video and subscribe to the channel so you get word of the next chapter. See you in the next chapter. Bye-bye.